Right, next episode. Just while I finish my coffee. Excuse me a second. It's my fuel, and I'm going to need it because wheels are going to come off. I've just realised I haven't really taken the wheels off. I've cleaned the wheels. As you saw at the end of that last episode, I literally cleaned all the brake dust off and loose rust, and I gave it a bit of a sort of sanding down with some 80 grit sandpaper. I'm probably going to tidy them up. We're going to take the wheels off and have a look at the brakes and the wheel arches. Going to take the arch liners off. Then going to take a few things off and just see how things are in the arches, mainly the front arches, and we'll go from there. Something I never mentioned before I'm about to get in this car is that just before I bought the car, some idiot tried to steal this car when the last owner did not lock the door. There's a bit of rust under there, but it's only surface. I'll treat that. Yes, they butchered the actual surround. The lock works absolutely fine. Well, that's for lock, Andrew. There we go. But yeah, the surround has been butchered a little bit. I might just cut this and make it look a little bit neater. But yeah, the problem is getting the surround for these. I think it's part of the actual lock. If anybody can let me know, so I can go maybe find a second-hand lock and try and swap this over, but that might be a bit of a pain. So it might be just one of those things. Look, my car's been trying to be nicked in the usual way with a freaking screwdriver. Honestly, it's 2023, guys. You need to stop and leave these freaking cars alone. Oh, the smell of the interior. Yes, yes, yes. Seats need a bit of a clean. I've got some dirt on that one. I don't know how that happened. Right, I'll just put that on. Now we can just move the wheels quite willy-nilly. And because we don't have any electrics, we can leave the keys in the car and know that the car potentially is not going to lock itself. I've had this with several cars in the past, especially my Mark 1 Focus. It loves locking itself in by itself. Yeah, they've all scrubbed up really well, these wheels. I'm pretty impressed, to be honest with you. And I will give these a paint. There's all sorts of wheel paints, but I'll paint it in gloss black. Gloss wheel black is the one I'm going to go for. But anyway, let's hook this off. Get my gun. So there's no locking nuts on this, and it's a traditional 4 stud, 19mm. That's a bit tight. Hey, got it. Okay, lovely. All these lovely bolts. Lovely. And the wheel comes off. Oh, that's a really good sign. Somebody's been putting copperies on this. Thank you. For the first time ever, somebody's been putting copperies on these wheels. And it needs a bit of a clean on the inside. That's usual. So we'll just pop you there and we'll sort you out in a second. Oh my goodness me. We have the most simplest suspension ever. There's literally nothing to it. You literally have a cast iron hub with shock spring in a McPherson strut assembly. You can, I've pronounced it differently. It's either Matheson or McPherson. I don't know why I pronounced it the first way, to be fair. Truck rod looks good. The rubber looks good. We've got a stupid split pin design, so it goes into the hub. Yeah, it looks okay to me. Should be an absolute pain to adjust the tracking on this, as usual. They always seize. But it looks really dry. Just got a few cobwebs. The caliper on this side looks newer. It's a Ford caliper, and it does look really new compared with the other side. So I'm assuming that this it's in good condition. I'm just looking at the boot here. That's new. That is new. This caliper's been changed, definitely. Obviously the hose has been changed as well. Yeah, I've got to check up here because there's some scabs, but it's usual. with these cars. But the disc, I'm going to change these discs because they're solid discs. They're tiny discs. I think the brakes on Mark III Fiestas are not the best. I got the impression when I pulled in a couple of times that the brakes weren't the sharpest. I mean, we've got some score into the disc. I'll change it because there is a minimum thickness, and these are 1mm, 10mm discs or 12mm. But the Haynes Book of Lies says 10mm, and if it goes down to 8, that's the minimum thickness. And I'm not being funny. I can feel like a millimetre on that side, and at least probably 2mm on that side. So that's going to be changed. And I've got the lovely grub screw, which is no doubt probably going to, well, we'll see if it comes out or not. But we've got the usual sort of bent in sort of hub nut design, just to stop that spinning on the shaft. Yeah, so all pretty predictable, really. Yeah, I've got the stupid clip pin that you have to bend back. I've had this on Mark 1 Focuses, and this can snap back quite easily. We've got the normal sliders. It looks very familiar to someone who has Ford Focus Mark 1 calipers. In fact, every Ford for about 20 years used this kind of design. So it's not predictable. These calipers, you can get the calipers, the discs, you can get these on Ford Fiestas, Ford KAs. In fact, you could get this on the Ford KA up until about 2007, 2008, I believe. But yeah, there's no anti-roll bar, as you can see. It's just nothing. No, I had a bit of a wire brush exercise when I was on the inside. Yeah, it looks really good. I will need to go around, but I hope to get all this off maybe today, actually. We've got some mud flaps which have not caused any rust from what I can see, but we won't know. I've got to take these two 10mm bolts out, and the arch line is held in with a load of Torx. I think they're T35s. I guess that it would be T35s. Yep, that fits. Okay, so we'll get them off, and we'll get these two screws out and take the whole thing out and see what we've got. Right, yeah, we've got two 10mm. I have put some penetrating fluid on there in the past, so they should, yep, move straight away. They are literally just clamped, so all you're doing is slackening the bolts, and they should just declamp. Oh my god, there's nothing, the slightest bit of bubbling. You can see, guys, just the slightest bit of bubbling here, and I can't feel anything on the other side. Maybe a bit of dirt, but that's it. I'm telling you, if that had been a Focus Mark 1, that would have rotted out by now, because these mud flaps, for me, what they do, what they do is they hold that dirt trapped there. It's a really good idea to get these off every so often and clean them. And I certainly am. I'm going to be scrubbing that up completely. They're good. Tell you what, they're good quality. They're heavy. They're thick. And look at they're in great condition. Honest to God. So yeah, we're going to do a bit of cleaning there, but nothing untoward. Right, I suppose we better get these Torx bits off, see if they'll undo. Not by hand. I have no idea what I'm going to find behind here. Like most things, it does happen on camera. And oh yeah, I've discovered one Torx. There's 4 Torx screws, 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and these 2 Phillips. There's just a little Torx that I actually have forgotten. It's right in the corner. They're so dirty, it's difficult to see them sometimes. It's all going to get a clean up. Everything that comes off gets cleaned. Right, that's that. Here we go. Bottoms up. Now there's a little tab at the top, you've got to push it that way, so it's completely normal. Okay. Try not to damage anything. We've got cobwebs falling all over the place. Oh my goodness me. There was a clip in this one that's stuck in there. I'll have to get that out. It's just snapped on me, but it doesn't matter because as usual. Right, what have we got here? Scabbiness all over the place. I'm gonna have to deal with that. It's always behind the brake pipes. The brake pipe clip is sort of sheared, that's usual. That one's slightly intact, but my God, the brake pipe, even near the wheel, it's absolutely fine. It's got the green coating on it. Usual. Yeah, just nothing. I've got to go all over all these seams because that's where rust starts in, and I've got a feeling, oh, we've got some. Now this is suspicious when you see this rust run, but nope. That, by the way, is that's the drain hole from the top there on the scuttle. That's the drain hole, so that's why we got that dirt mark. We got this. Now you got to be careful because this is where water runs. This is where usually you find, well, cobwebs is a good sign in this sort of area. I mean, that's just dry. That's just dry. Those bushes have got the tiniest minor cracks on it. This arm's been changed. There's no way that a steel arm from Ford is not that not incredibly rusty. So that's been changed. And this sort of mini subframe style, that these arms are bolted to this sort of steel mini sub. I call them mini subframes because a Mark III doesn't have a proper subframe. It has a crossbeam that I've tidied up, and we've got these. Yeah, but the bottom of the wing, I can't see any rust. I just know it's dirt. It's utter dirt and cobwebs. I can't feel anything. What is that? That's weld. Is that weld? Eyeglasses. No, that's actual proper like on the ceiling weld. Tell you what, I've seen a few times now on this car evidence of the factory paint welding and undersealing where they just slashed it on, get this out the door. Literally, they could not wait to get these cars out the door. It was so slapdash. I mean, there's a bit of bubbiness chipping around the arch, but there's no rust. Now, obviously because all this is metal, you've got to check down here. Now, my experience is that this is the frilly corner. I've cleaned a lot of this up, but not on this side. And once again, there's just nothing. There's just absolutely. Go right in the corner here where the seam meets, where the wing meets the seam. It's just no. There's no signs of any sort of perforation. It's just dirty. We get this timing belt cover off as well. Yeah, this is going to be quite a messy job. But the first thing to do, I've just got to wire brush this down. So I'll give it a bit of a brush down. But as you can see, I'm not dealing with much. What I'm dealing with, guys, is all this kind of rust. Most people think, nah, it's all right, clean that up, stick it back on, you won't have to deal with it, it's only surfaced. No, this is the kind of rust that turns into worse rust if you leave it, and I've got to deal with up here because that's probably the most consistent bit, but it's just scabs. Hello, This is, I tell you what, I've got to say, the one thing I find hilarious is that there's just a big hole where they thought we can save weight and save on steel by filling this gap with a plastic arch liner. And you've just got the whole engine bay there. Instead, that normally would be a piece of metal going all the way to the front. But in the Fiesta, they saved a bit of money there. So yeah, I'm going to just... Ugh. Nasty. Right, okay. Now, what I'm going to try is to actually get this caliper off. I want to try and get this caliper off. Get these caps off, right. Take that cap off. I need to get this cap off because these brake discs, they don't look old. They certainly don't look old. But they're going to come off because I need better access. And these would be H7s. Okay. So we've got that front side backed off. I mean, to be fair, these pads don't look old, but I will probably change them because I just want new pads to mate with new discs as per course, really. Right, I'm going to get my H7. Right, might be a bit tricky with the brake hose in the way, but I'll see if I can get it in. Yep. And that's quite tight. So my best advice is, as usual, the hammer. There we go. Comes straight off. And just wind them out. I'm probably going to have a look at these anyway. And the bottom one. Oh, I love brakes. Constantly faffing around with Beatrix's brakes, and we're not done with Beatrix either, guys. We've got a few things to go on Beatrix, and there we go. It's me. These sliders are all the way back. My God, this is tight. I have pushed the piston back in a little bit, which is ridiculous. My God, what's it catching on now? There we go. My sliders have gone all over the blooming place as well. Okay, this piston looks absolutely brand new. There's nothing on that. Right, I'm going to leave that there. My sliders, yeah, these look brand new as well. To be fair, they should be. It comes with a new caliper. And you should have sliders that basically go backwards and forwards. I'm going to leave that caliper there for the time being. These pads, I mean, the backing plate is actually screwed on this for some reason. I don't know why that is, but we got that one that's screwed into the back of the caliper. That came out. But yeah, the brake discs, they're all scored because the brake disc has been scored. I can't have these. These are going to go in the bin. And right, I'm going to see if I can take this brake disc out now. Now, ideally, you might want to do this when the caliper is attached and you've got somebody with their foot on the brake pedal, or just, you know, put it in gear. But because I've got park, which is still acting, my advice is a manual impact driver with a hammer. Now, I'm going to put some penetrating fluid on again, just a little bit, just to give it a helping hand. But there's really no technique to this at all apart from doing this. This is something I've done a few times down the years. And it's moved. There you go. Some move, some don't. Honest to God, these grub screws are an absolute pain in the ass. The only reason they fitted these blasted things is in assembly. You don't need them, by the way. But I always like to try not break things because I'll put it back in now it's come out. And really, the only sort of thing that's keeping it on is this carrier. Now, there's 2 bolts just here and here, just holding this carrier on. give it a bit of a wire brush, okay, bit of penetrating fluid, and a bit of a hammer again. There we go, straight away. There we go. And it never ceases to work. There we go. There we go. Oh, 2 bolts with, my God, that's a lot of Loctite, that is. You wouldn't even have thought it. But yeah, covered in cobwebs again, that will be cleaned. We'll just put the bolts back in, I think, ideally. Everything will be wire brushed down and cleaned to an inch of its life. And now we've got the disc. Well, there's just no way about it. Oh, there you go. Just give it a sharp tap and it will come out. Oh. I mean, have you seen the backside of it? Oh my God. How did this pass an MOT last November? It's pitted and scored. Sorry, I think that was a... Do you know what? That November MOT, they put an advisory down for the front cross member for corrosion. When there's no corrosion, you've seen it, it's surface rust. Almost like they had to talk about something. Well, why not talk about that brake disc? That brake disc has not gone like this in 12 months. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's why MOTs, they're a good guide for when you're buying a car, but don't rely on it, because we know that there are dodgy MOTs done. Look at this. I'll show you in more detail. Just, honest to God, got a whole nest growing in this thing. Yeah. That's going in the bin. On with these 2. Discs and pads are quite cheap for this car. I couldn't believe some of the prices, so I've actually got some really decent, semi-decent aftermarket discs for this car. I'm just going to brush this and shut my mouth because a lot of brake dust is going to go everywhere, so excuse me. That looks a lot better now. Always get a little bit of a wire brush and clean your hardware, they say. And you must make sure that this is clean, because this is what the brake pads sit on. You don't want a groove, so make sure that all the brake dust has gone and any rust, because it's going to make things a little bit difficult for the pads to actually shift, because the pads will move when the sliders act on them. They will move across this ledge. You always put a bit of copperies on the ledge just to help the matter. So yeah, good top tip that. Right, that's done. Now I've got to clean the face. It's always a good idea to make sure that this face is clean, and we'll go over with some white spirit, but obviously we're going to do a lot of brushing elsewhere, so there's going to be a lot of dust going around. But the idea is that your disc sits against a perfectly clean surface. This is why I don't like it when people paint these hubs and they paint the flange. No, 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 no. We don't want paint on here. We want bare blooming metal. We do not want anything on here, grease or anything. So that's I'm a real stickler for that sort of thing. As we can see, this caliper there's nothing wrong with it, just needs a bit of a clean. These sliders, I'll clean them when the time comes, but I'll just go down here, and it's a bit greasy down here, but there's no evidence that this boot is cracking. I'll just peel it back. No, there's nothing wrong with this boot. Maybe this boot, hold on. I'm pretty sure that's not a standard CV boot clamp. It's a Jubilee clamp. So this has been changed. This is too subtle. That CV boot has been changed. That's why the one on the other side's been changed as well, rather recently. But that's why this hasn't need changing, because it's already been changed. Yeah, it's already been changed with a hose clamp. Well, I don't mind that, a Jubilee clamp. I don't mind that. The ball joint looks in good condition. Just a bit rusty on the end, as they all go. Lovely. Right, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to wire brush a lot of this back, and this is always the messiest bit of the exercise, but it's always good to just go back to a good base. One thing I need to do is spin the wheels so I can show you that the wheel bearings are good. You just spin the wheel and just listen for graunches, but I can't really do this with the wheel off, but it would be basically the fore and aft movement on the bearing. But to be fair, the bearing is in the hub. I just have, it'd be simple as take the hub nut out, punch the drive shaft out, take this bottom ball joint out with this Torx bit. Very familiar. Everything on this car is very familiar to anybody with a Ford of the 90s and early noughties. Believe you me, Focus Mark 1 people, your calipers are the same. So the same applies. And all this really applies. Just such a simple car. But yeah, take the ball joint out and then literally take the pinch bolt out. That will be quite tight. And then break the taper. So just smashing on it with a good club with a hammer, and this whole hub will come out. And go to a shop, they'll press the bush in and out for you. It saves you the hassle. I mean, I haven't gone down the route of a bench press. I don't know where to store it. Very rarely have I encountered a wheel bearing going on me, fingers crossed. It is a thing with Focus Mark 1s, but if it happens, it happens, and I'll deal with it. And my solution is take the hub to a shop who can do it. Give them a drink. You know what I mean? Cleaning reveals many things, and it's not appropriate really for a cable tie to hold a CV boot on. They're just not as tight. That's why we had a little bit of grease coming out. Okay, I might need to get a proper clip for that boot. It'll be a simple case of putting it on in situ. I'll bear that in mind. It's okay as it is for now, but ideally not. We've had a really good wire brush up. I'm still going to go over areas, but I've been up the front, I've been round the corners, I've been within the arch. I just grinded. I mean, this is so smooth. There's no bubbliness whatsoever. It's ridiculous. In there, down on the wing. Just needs a really good scrub up. I'll go over again, but honestly, there isn't a great deal to look at, guys. That is probably going to be a repeat performance on that side. I'm just gonna clean this up. I'll just give it a bit of a wire brush up on the other side just to make it look a little bit more presentable than that. I'm going to leave this side as it is. I'm going to secure the caliper and just continue to clean this up. This is the messiest stage where there's just bits everywhere really. So I'm going to just do a little bit of clearing up on this side. We will come back to this side at some point, but the point is we've taken all the bits and pieces off to be cleaned. And you know the way I work, guys. I work very thoroughly. I work systematically in the way that it works for me. But yes, new disc, new brake pads, but we'll clean the caliper up, and we got a nice new hose. Thank goodness somebody was looking out for me. And yeah, that boot has been changed, but I'll have to get a new clip, a cable tie and a Jubilee clip. Probably not really that good. But I suppose they work. I suppose they've kept it okay. But there is evidence that there's been a little bit of grease getting out. Although I gotta say, the wheel hasn't got any grease on it, so it's not that bad really. When CV boots tend to go, they really do go, and the grease just spits everywhere. So Yeah. Anyway, repeat on the other side. And yes, back for a repeat performance on the other side. Let's see what this side is looking at. For a 34-year-old car, this is ridiculously good. Oh yes, I remember I loosened some of these. A really bad memory. It's another wheel that wants to come off, believe you me. I'm taking this wheel off, I just loosened them. Oh, blooming heck. That is one, I mean, to be fair, I have been hosing down a bit, but that's ridiculous. Copperies again. Oh. On first inspection again, I've just taken a couple of these bolts out. Again, no leaks, no sign of any leaking from the shocker. Spring is, I tell you what, I think the springs are much more high quality on older Fords than late 90s, noughties stuff. I think the springs, I mean, they look really good. They'd have rusted out by now. They're the original springs. They've got to be. They've got the original paint markings on them from Ford. But we've got some, what on earth? Congealed crap. The brake pads are disintegrating. And I've just noticed this thing. This caliper is the old caliper. And yeah, the piston seal's knackered. Okay, well, I mean, this is a new hose-ish, although there is elements of grease. This CV boot has been changed with the correct clips. Yep, nice and supple, bit newer. Yeah, I had to do a little bit of degreasing when I was in the engine bay. Forgive the gearbox, it's still dripping. I will clean the gearbox. We don't want dirt in the gearbox. I'll probably put a cloth over that before I start wire brushing. But there was some grease around the bottom ball joint. It has been degreased a little bit, but there's still grease around. CV grease, honestly, when it goes everywhere. They didn't do a very good job. They put the boot on, but they left an absolute mess. Well, I know what I'm going to be doing with this thing. See where the ear sits against the pad, that's how it should be sitting, and it should spring back a little bit. It's going to be a pain. This one's actually a lot harder to get out, which is probably a good thing. Okay, lovely. This has been in situ for quite a long time from what I've seen. I might just get a new pair of springs for this, because this one seems to be quite bent, and my god, that is actually seized in the caliper. My god. This is a first. Well, it's off, but it's not off the caliper. I might need to add a new spring to the shopping list, because where it goes into the caliper, can't get it out. Look at that. Blimey, that is absolutely seized in there. Oh my god, it's actually twisted. Yeah, okay, it's been a while since this has been off. I'm going to ignore that. And oh, we're missing the caps on the back of the sliders. That's another thing. Well, as I say, this caliper will be coming off. I won't take it off immediately, because I'm hoping that, judging on the fact that the hoses have all been done, I don't want to be disturbing any of the brake nipples at the back. Because I'll tell you something, the garage who did all the hoses on this car, they did it on a bleeding machine. They didn't crack any of these nipples off. So the least I have to disturb hydraulically, the better. So I won't take the caliper off until the new caliper is ready to go on. I got one, 22 quid. I did work in advance. I saw this caliper and thought, nope, knackered. And that piston seal has kind of confirmed it for me. But anyway, let's not waste any time and just crack this off. Oi, 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 oi. There you go, easy as you like. And we'll just wind itself all the way out to the point where you can pry this caliper. I hope so anyway. I'm keeping these lovely bleed nipples, and I thought that's got Ford written on it. If I just take that and just give it a wiggle, yeah, I can pull that backwards and pull this. Just give it a wiggle and pull it backwards this way. There we go. Right, so here we go again. I haven't got my pry bar, but I don't care. Right, I've got the big boy. Wow, it's not my biggest pry bar, but it's a proper one. There we go, no prisoners. Straight from the off. It still doesn't want to come out. That's ridiculous. There we go. See, that for me, if this is the original caliper, which I doubt, that's pretty good for the condition of that rubber. But this is where it's come undone. Now if I just get my fingers in, put that there. Get my screwdriver. Look at that piston, it's starting to pit and rust. I don't like that one there. No, that's when a piston does not travel freely along its bore. Look, it's still got grease. Honest to flipping God, it's everywhere. Oh, right, I think a bit of degrease in his hand. I don't really care about that caliper. I'm not paying any attention to it. I'll probably take the sliders out for good measure. The sliders are absolutely score. Sorry for the language. Yeah, they're scored. The other one, not as bad, but that's not good. These sliders, you can sand them down, but you need new sliders. Oh God. Yeah, it's one of these universal ones, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, they've done a good job with that, to be fair. They've put the correct clamps on, but they didn't do the mopping up exercise. Well, look, is that the bottom arms have got the original? Look at that. Honestly, I think these arms have been changed. Again, I'm just looking at the bushes. Some minor cracking. Stress, I call them stress cracks, they are. Yeah, okay. Let's get this blasted thing off with a 16mm. Right, I'm going to get my 17mm impact because these two bolts don't want to budge with the manual effort, so I thought I'd buzz this in. God, that frigging Loctite. Now that's weird. Now most of you are going to say it's because the Loctite. Yeah, I'd agree with you in this case on this side, but that side came off perfectly fine by hand. How weird is it? I said this before. You can go to one side of the car and all the bolts come off absolutely fine, and then you go to the other side and everything, all the same bolts on the different side, they're completely seized. Or they snap, or, you know, round. You can't fathom it. Yeah, okay, this is near the curbside, so more water. So we're going to find out what's behind that arch liner. But just this again. That's perfect. Thank you, Draper. That'll be cleaned up. These pads, by the way, again, the backing's coming off them. They're quite thick, but my God, they're scored. Rubbish. Yes. Yes, it's moved. Woo! When you get it moving, it's all good. Well, that's fantastic. Grub screws that have actually not sheared on me. And the disc wants to fall off. Lovely. Nice and scored. Ready for the scrapper. Okie dokie. Same as usual, really. Just needs a bit of a wire brush up. Now we need to take all this off. I always think that cobwebs are a very good sign of lack of rust, dry, that sort of. Just clamped on. Absolutely nothing. It's just dirt. Oh my god. It's just dirt. Right, I'll clean that up. Go over there and take the rest of this liner out. Right, pull it. There's no way of doing this, just try and ease it out. The caliper's gone AWOL. You're not sure what to do, just give it a shake and it will shake itself out. Oh. There we go. Out, 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 out. Oh, we have some more rust. Take this out. And down here, it's good, just a bit frilly on that side. Might have to take the washer bottle out. Lots of cobwebs. Lovely. Brake pipe looks really good. Again, it's gone a bit frilly along that ledge up there, but it looks good up there. There's no shock absorber leaks. It just looks really good. It looks nice around there. Bit dirty at the bottom of the front wing, but again, just there's nothing. You know, the arch is just, it's smooth. There's no rust. We've had a bit of paint that's just fallen off. It's been held in by these cobwebs. I'll deal with that. That's not bad at all. I can deal with that. I can deal with that because that's not a hole. You let it go though, it will be. But if you look up here around the water well, now this is where the drain hole is. That drain hole, well, that's blocked. That drain hole's blocked. I've got to unblock that. What the heck? What is in there? That shouldn't be blocked like that. But this is what I call tiger bread rust. It just looks a bit, yeah, orangey. Now, it feels solid, but it's starting to go in a bit of a bad way. This is the sort of rust you've got to catch badly. So I'm going to get on top of this straight away with the drill. If you notice that this attachment is getting a bit smaller, I need to order another one, but it makes it very easy to get in these sorts of corners up here. Now, apart from it spinning off, I'm pleased to report that that's going very well. It's solid, but you need to deal with it. So I'll keep going at that until everything's done. But yeah, I'm just gonna wire brush it down, same as the other side. You don't need to see me do this. You just need to see the final results in about 5 to 10 minutes. Well, I can say it's all going really, really well around the sides and up there. But we've discovered, because I saw these marks and I thought, peeling under seal. We've got to deal with that because you never know. I don't think there is, but I'm going to get the drill on it and we're going to get that back. If I have to put the grinder on it, I have to. Right, first thing, up there, I have made that hole bigger. Do you know what's happened? In the factory, they've just put seam sealer slapped on that corner where this seam is on the other side, and they've gone and blocked the hole up, or almost. I'm going to make that slightly bigger than what it actually is, but that's half the problem. Water. Instead, water's forced through this bit, and it's why you've got all this going on, which I just cleaned up a bit. But my God, thank God nothing's happened. Yeah, it's nothing on the other side here, but there's a lot of mess here. There's a lot of under seal.
Yes. So we've grinded that back. And you know when you get into solid metal, when the underseal isn't flaking off,
It's coming off in tiny bits, i.e. it's very hard to get off.
that means there's no rust underneath. And as you can see, I was a bit concerned looking at that panel that it's gone a bit too far, but that is typical. I'm going to bang on about this, about keeping on top of it. If I hadn't have done what I've just done there, and I'm going to rust
Convert it, I'm going to treat it, it's going to be painted, zinc primer, Dynaxed, you name it, like the rest of it, right?
But if you don't get on top of things like that, and especially that's worse. I'd say that looked bad, but it's gone right back, it's solid. That was actually worse. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, you're calling that 5, probably 6, 7, probably 6, and that's probably 8. There's a high chance that that would have gone through in another 12 months of driving, which is why you've got to stay on top of it. You really have. You can't leave stuff like that. Not on a car this age, but overall, I'm just going to go in the corners here and there, but honestly, like, just a bit on here on the body, where the actual, well, the mini subframe as such, mini bolts down here to the actual body. I could understand why Ford did separate subframes later on. Back of the gearbox is looking greasy still. I'm going to have to sort that out. It's not as bad as what it was before though. But it's looking really good. And I've got a lot of clearing up to do. A bit of brushing up here. Got to brush this down and put it back on. That sort of thing. It's the tally's adding up. I've got a list in my head of things that need to be done. I've got things on the way. I'm hoping that I can get this car ready for middle October, but I think we're pushing that because I'm trying to go at a good pace here. But there's an awful lot of things that I'm seeing that is going to take time to get right, and I want it done right first time, because I just don't believe in doing a job where you rush because you want to get the car out to a show, let's say in a couple of weeks, and then you have to come back to it. I just think, yeah, for the sake of a show, nah, I don't do that sort of compromise. Not with my cars. The cars come first, and then you can go to a show when you know the car is good and safe and nice to drive, and a good example of what one was like to drive, because there's too many of these Fiestas, cars of this age really in general, that are on knackered suspension. They've got dreadful brakes. The performance or the tuning of the carbs, they've gone out of tune, the ignition time is off. It needs a good old basic TLC, and they've been let go a little bit, and I don't think you could get the benefit of owning a car this age if it's not in fine fettle, which is why I've gone through the length of doing all this to get the car back to base one for my sake and for the next person, because we are only custodians of these cars. We're merely for the next owner. That's what it's about. So I kind of considered both things really, but the main thing is what's good for the car is good for the next owner. It's good for me, so sort of a win all round. Not everybody feels or sees it that way. In fact, very few people see it that way, which is quite concerning in the world of classic cars. That, I mean, I'll give you an example. Festival the Unexceptional, there was a beautiful Mark II Fiesta there, and the owner hadn't got a clue about tyres. He'd owned the car 17 years and never changed the tyre. Sorry, you drove on the motorway on 17-plus-year-old tyres. I don't care how good they are. These, bloody hell, these down here, they're Dunlop SPs. Most of them are. They're 15 years old. This one can't keep air because it's old. And when I asked, like, have you not thought to get them changed? Well, no, do I need to get them changed? When do I have to get them changed? I'm sorry, you own a car this old, right? It's a B plate Mark II Fiesta, so we're talking almost 40 years old. And you don't know about tyres. I find that really concerning. I'm not suggesting that people like that should ever own a classic car, but you really do need to read up on your stuff when you go and own a car this old or older. It's just, sorry. I just find it laughable. As someone who's quite competent, and the incompetency, it's dangerous. I don't care about, well, I care about the person, and I told him to get them changed ASAP. I care not about the car, I care about other people, because it's you and me that get slammed into because someone's tyre's blown and they're old and they didn't get them changed. Sorry, that's wrong. Anyway, enough of that, back to the car. That's what I'm like. If you're new to the channel, straight talking, no bullshit. Now, for the benefit here, I'm not going to do anything furthermore today. There's a lot of clearing up to do. There's a lot of wire brushing, you know, around all the areas that I did on the other side. There's nothing to see. There's no rust on either front arch. Only the bits that I've shown you that need going back to bare metal. I'll probably do that with that top one along that seal, but there's nothing. The construction of this car is just amazing. I mean, Mark III Fiestas and rust, they go together like any Ford of this age. And yet the examples that I see, Escorts, Orions of all this age, the ones that I see on the road are absolutely pristine, just as much as this. And this isn't pristine actually. It's actually tired in many places, and it's not been driven for a good decent length in a long time, and it might show a little bit. It certainly shows underneath in the brake department. Maybe that's why my brakes were so rubbish. But I'm going to leave this here, and we'll cut to a bit of a hose down at the end of the day. Right, thoroughly degreased in there. Fantastic. Get my magma, excuse me. Yep, completely and utterly degreased on this side. Wheels wire brushed and sanded with some sandpaper, and this stuff is just amazing. Colour changing technology. Wow. The instant. I'll go into the bin of shame. Degreased and cleaned. Look at the amount of mud that was sitting here, and there's still some there, and the amount of mud here. This is where the arch sits. You don't want that dirty, so they're going to be cleaned and then probably cleaned again. Arch liners, yeah, people neglect the back of them, but this is the bit that touches the body. I mean, look at this, all the rubbish that was in this groove. It's a mud bath, a total mud bath. You must do this to prevent rust on whatever car you've got, because seriously, it's something that people just don't think about. Right, hose. The car is nice and clean. You know, rust spots here and there, but nothing that we can't deal with. There's been some stone chip being sprayed there. You can definitely tell that they just slapped everything on. But I would say we've got to the basis of treating all this. I mean, look at that. That's the bottom wing, that is. The best thing is when I put the hose through, water was coming through the drain holes in the sill. That's another good thing. Right, I'm going to put all these back on. But I've got one last thing to say before the next episode. This. It's been a shame. 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 Shame.